I want to start with the budget, and then I kind of want to talk about planning. And then at the end, I want to task each one of you to go do something, to have some skin in the game about a lot of these issues. So the first thing I want to share with you is that, and it's very timely that you brought up about police budget, because I'll tell you how much they're giving you. About 3 weeks ago, the city manager, Brad Griffin, briefed the commissioners on what his take is on the budget for FY26. And for the third year in a row, it's going to be a deficit budget. For the last 3 years, Athens-Clarke County has been drawing down its reserves. And just so you understand, Athens-Clarke County has a fiscal policy that says they must hold in reserve 2 months worth of operating funds. And that percentage is 16.7%. This fiscal year, they're drawing down reserves again to the point where it's going to be 18.9%. So they're running very close to minimum reserves. And you may ask, well, why is that? And that's for a couple of reasons. One, if you go back to FY19, the mayor and commission funded $0 for maintenance and life cycle cost replacement of capital assets. $0. Why did they do that? Because they shifted funding to feel-good priorities, not core infrastructure requirements such as fire, police, safety, anything else. And at the same time, you remember all of these SPLOSH and T-SPLOSH referendums you voted for? All of those do is bill stuff that has to be maintained. So it sucks up all the dollars. So here we are in almost start of the fiscal year of 2026, and Athens-Clarke County is going to run a deficit budget. And it will be a deficit budget going forward because there's an insatiable desire to spend money, spend your tax money. So one of the things that Brad Griffin talked about was he said, I had 104 projects that all the departments in Athens-Clarke County, including the police department, came up with in terms of their requirements for FY26. But he said I could only fund 10 of those. Well, out of almost $27 million of new capital projects that needed to be funded, he could only fund $6 million. And Chief Salter's requirement was almost $700,000. Do you want to know how much is in the city manager's budget for you? $35,000. Mm-hmm. So after that presentation by the city manager, I just simply wrote him an email and said, Brad, I'm really interested in these 104 projects. A Stephanie question. Mm-hmm. Tell me about these 104 projects. That was 3 weeks ago. No response after several follow-ups. Mm-hmm. So bright and early Monday morning, I sent them an open records request. And this afternoon, they responded. Mm. So I have the list of all the unfunded requirements for FY26 that come from the departments. And when you read through this is pretty basic stuff. Just like the chief said, keep focused on the basics. So the message is, here we are with the deficit budget. There are many requirements that can't be funded that are key, all because the mayor and many commissioners think that their desires and wants are more important than core infrastructure requirements. Sorry. And let me give you 2 examples of that. One is that Commissioner Johnson was talking about the meeting the other night. Very interesting meeting. There were 2 items on the agenda that I spoke about. One was they wanted to allocate $1 million for something called Community Partnership Program funding. That is, they wanted to go ahead and approve giving $1 million to 12 nonprofit agencies in FY26 when Athens-Clarke County doesn't have a budget for FY26. So now think about this. The city manager had told them 3 weeks earlier that we're going to have a deficit budget to the tune of $3.2 million. So they went ahead and they approved this for $1 million, which means the deficit is now what? $4.2 million. Do you understand what Stephanie was saying when she says, I try to ask for specific information?
Yes.
The resistance that she gets?
Yes.
Now, if that wasn't enough, this resolution that she was talking about, which was really about a set aside for minorities, identified 31 nonprofit organizations in Athens by name. And then it talked about funding. Now, if you were in the Athens-Clarke County staff somewhere and you saw this resolution come out and commissioners voted for it, you would probably be like me. You know, that's a signal that we're supposed to fund these 31 organizations, right? So not only did they add $1 million to the deficit, they added untold millions of dollars to that same deficit, because now the message is to the staff, you need to figure out some way to fund these 31 organizations. The message is that Athens-Clarke County is out of control. It's out of control physically, and it's out of control from planning. So let me talk about planning a minute. The other night, I used the opportunity to talk about one subject on the agenda to really talk about another subject, which was planning. And I started out by talking about that we now have 17 pages of paper that has 42 addresses in Athens, Georgia on each page. You can do the math, that's what, like 714. There's 714 short-term rentals in Athens today. Not counting the one that was approved the other night, and not counting the ones that are queued up for the Planning Commission to approve. So here we are in Athens, Georgia, where there are a lot of concerns about affordable housing. And one of the things we know from a lot of research is that the inventory of short-term rentals directly drives up housing prices, which then makes it more unaffordable for people to own homes. So on one hand, Athens talks about, oh, well, let's do something about affordable housing. But then on the other side, they have a policy that essentially is encouraging ever-increasing numbers of short-term rentals in Athens. Now, if that wasn't enough, it's difficult to get your arms around how many bedrooms have been approved to be constructed in Athens. A couple of years ago, the planning department would ask that question, and between, I think it was 2018 and sometime in 2022, the number was almost 16,000. Nobody knows how many since then have been approved. And at the same time, we've learned that from various ad hoc experiences from the real estate folks and others, that we've got major problems in terms of sewer capacity in Athens-Clarke County. Somebody buys a piece of property, they want to put up a hotel, they want to put up a restaurant. Oh, well, there's no sewer capacity. Or if you want it, you're going to have to spend $3 million to hook up. Okay? So nobody's looking at that. And just the other night, I thought this was just kind of interesting. Alex, you're working on the Future Land Use Steering Committee, and I'm not targeting you personally. So, and what I found most interesting was that one of the items on the agenda was from public utilities. they needed approval to go spend $10 million to do a complete survey and analysis of all 500 miles of sewers that Athens-Clarke County has. Now, why is that? Because a lot of people, starting last summer, began asking them direct questions, and a number of us had a meeting with them in August of this past year with some very specific questions about capacity. And all of that got started from Charlie and others who were bringing up examples of problems that we have with sewer, including Charles Hardy back there, where we went out to Athens Gardens, I think, and Clark Gardens, where there had been sewer overflows and it was still all over the ground, and Athens-Clarke County hadn't done anything about it. So here we are talking about planning, Alex, and Clarke County Public Utilities feels the need to go do a survey of 500 miles of sewer to find out what the real status is and look at our sewer capacity. So how can we do any kind of integrated planning if we don't even know what our sewer capacity is? Now let's talk about T-Splosh, Transportation Special Local Option Sales Tax and Special Local Option Sales Tax. It wasn't until this week that I was finally able to get a list of what I think are all the projects, but Stephanie, we need to compare notes because I don't think it's the entire list. And when you go in there and look at that, do you know we have a 2011 Splosh project that has never been completed? What year is this? 2011. Not completed. I also understand there's money that's gone to Athens Land Trust that goes back to 2010 that's never been expended. So what we have here is we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in Athens in terms of projects, investments, and I haven't even talked about downtown and what's going on with the arena, that are not integrated and not connected because the way Athens manages, it manages in stovepipes. All stovepipes. So we've got two big issues facing us. One is the budget issue, and it's not that there's not enough money. Athens has plenty of revenue. The issue has to do with how it is spent.
Yes, yes.
And to give you an example, if you look at the service delivery plan for public utilities, over the next 20 years, they require $500 million. Now that's in today's dollars. If you escalate that out, that's like $750-something million. So how's that going to be paid for? It's going to be paid for increased fees. But is that visible anywhere? No, it's not visible anywhere. So my point is, we have a fiscal problem, we have a planning problem, and it's time for people to get their head in the game.
Yes.
And start asking a lot of questions and to really get engaged. Now, one of the thing I want to end up with is, you probably all heard a lot about the future land use plan. And I'm going to step on Alex's toes a little bit, but he knows it's not personal. I have never been a fan of this for a whole bunch of reasons. And one of them kind of goes back to 2023. One of the planners in the Athens-Clarke County Planning Department made a real big faux pas because he gave an interview to the Flagpole magazine. And he spilled the beans about what it is that the urbanist and the planning department are trying to do. And let me read the quote that he gave, which he later got called on the carpet by Blaine Williams for saying this in public. He said, "Growth will happen in all neighborhoods. That's what we plan, particularly those inside the loop and those with sewer service. They need to expect it. They need to accept it. That's how we're going to grow without bankrupting the city. The lower the density, the more expensive it is to provide city services." The entire effort behind this is to increase density in existing housing areas in Athens-Clarke County. and don't you think otherwise. It's based on progressive housing policies, which are intended to take traditional neighborhoods of any color, shape, size, or fashion or group and turn them into high-density housing, which means duplexes, fourplexes, sixplexes, high-rises, short-term rentals. That's what it's about. And one of the things that you can do is go to one of these future land use meetings, and I'll leave the flyer up here. And what you will not find is you will not find any report. There is no report that's been generated by this group over the past 9 to 10 months. There's no report that documents all their assumptions, all their planning factors, all the changes to existing land use that they propose, and why they propose those changes, and what the impacts are going to be. And the reason is, and I've been a bureaucrat a long time, is that once you put down on paper something, and you date it and you sign it, you own it, and you therefore can't change it. So when you go to these meetings and you see all these nice colored maps, I call them coloring books, that has nothing to do with what they're going to eventually do, because they're not committed to it. Because nobody's put it and documented it, nobody's dated it, nobody's signed it. So one of the things you need to do, and it's my ask of you, is it's one thing to write a check. It's one thing to pat somebody on the back. But you don't have skin in the game until you actually get in the arena and you go to the commission meeting and you stand up and speak. And it doesn't mean that you have to be an expert on every agenda item that's on that list. But I guarantee you, if you read the list, there's something on there that will tweak your interest and that's important to you. Find out what that is, and you go up there and you speak. You buttonhole your commissioner. And I will say this whether Stephanie was here or not. She's the only commissioner who is out and about, who has her ears on and listens and is willing to engage.
That's right.
Most of the rest of them are so opaque about what they do, it's hard to know that they're even there. So my ask of you is to don't just pat on the back, don't just write a check, get skin in the game, go stand up at the commission meeting and speak. Go to meetings like this and speak. And on this one, go to the meeting and say, where's my report? Mm-hmm. Don't just go look at a color map and ooh and ah and then go home and say, I had no idea what that means for me. That's a way that we're going to get voices heard and we're going to get some attention paid to what I think are the real issues. Yeah. So thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Question?
Mike?
I'll leave these down here for you.
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you could speak to the openness of promoting the meetings. One, and I think they started meeting in April of last year, but we did not see notification until at least meeting until October. And the second thing is conflicts of interest. I've noted them and just wrote in the margins, but what have you seen? What do you think?
The question has to do with, do I think the meetings were open and transparent when they started, and conflict of interest issues? To the first question, no. The Future Land Use Steering Committee was not formed, established, and orchestrated to comply with the Georgia Open Meetings Act requirement. That was pointed out repeatedly to the city manager, city attorney, and the mayor on many occasions, not just by me, but many others. And it took a long time for them to, number one, actually publish notice of the meetings as appropriate to comply with the Opens Meeting Act on the Athens-Clarke County website. And then, even then, it was kind of spontaneous. And then if you look at the minutes of the meeting and the agendas, they're far from adequate about what's going on. To your second question, if you look at the composition of the committee, I think any of you would look at the people on that committee and think in your mind about land use, which then gets followed by looking at zoning changes and other things, and ask questions about why are people who could benefit financially from making these decisions, why are they engaged in this committee effort?
Thank you.
So I haven't been able to go to any of the flu meetings yet.
Can you stand up, Susan? I can't hear you. I don't have my hearing aids tonight, I'm sorry.
I haven't gone to any of the open public meetings yet on the flu, but maybe this is a question, because I remember reading some of the goals from the committee, and that was put density where we have sewers. And there was a big push to put a bunch of stuff out 29 because sewers are out there. So that's where all the nodes are going, right? Maybe you can address that for me. All the higher densities and so forth and so on. It's like, we have sewers here, use them. Is that still the goal of the flu? And a follow-up question to that, why is there such a push now to pump it through the mayor and commission when this is not actually needed or legally needed until 28?
Am I welcome to?
You can't.
I'm asking y'all's permission. 'Cause I'm
Sure,
ready
go ahead, go ahead.
my own,
Since he's here.
Yeah, no, I don't mind answering that. My name is Alex Sams. I'm the chair of the Future Land Use Committee, Steering Committee. And I'm not going to answer every single detail because, again, we could be here all day long talking about that. But in general, what we have learned, and we've been doing this for about a year now, meeting, and it's public. It is on video, or you can go to YouTube. You can see the ones that are done. So please do. I encourage it. And the list of the meetings that we have coming up this week, please go to those. I just left one early to watch and talk to people there. But sewer is, as I've learned from the Planning Commission and so many other things, no sewer, no nothing. And Carol, a fellow realtor over here, and Charlie will tell you, sewer runs as real estate, runs everything. So growth is going to go where it's going to go. At the same time, the map is trying to not lead, but show and demonstrate where and how this can be done. So we can't put growth way out into the farm areas because there's no sewer. And we can't put buildings right on top of other buildings because they're already there. We can work with the density. I do want to say this though. The steering committee itself is nothing but volunteers. It's going out into the public now, and for feedback, the map will come back to the steering committee. We will tweak as we see. We'll listen to all of the feedback, and we will change the map if we need to based on public information. And then it will go to the planning commission, who will look at it, and they will either add a new map based on the changes that they would like to see. And I'm just giving the example. Let's say they do, and they say this should be this way, not as much density there, a little more over here. And then that would be two maps that then go to the mayor and commission. And at that point, the mayor and commission they're the elected officials, they're gonna hear from their constituents, and they will change as needed into forming the final map. So I know I kind of went a little here and a little there.
Why it's due 28? Why is it being pushed through now?
Well, it actually was due a few years ago. So, and I can't tell you the exact dates. Mike may know it better because he's great with details. Wish you were on the committee with us because I love how you pay attention to the details. But this was due a few years ago. COVID hit. It changed how things were operating with the county, as I understand. And then, so now we're getting to it. And
My understanding it's not due until 28.
okay, that's not my understanding. So, but I will tell you this.
There's no penalty associated with Athens Clarke County asking Department of Community Affairs for any kind of extension that's required. That's not a life and death matter. It's not a financial issue. And it seems to me that if Athens Clarke County is spending $10 million to go investigate 500 miles of sewers to figure out what our real issues of capacity are, and that's a limiting factor for the future land use plan, then something needs to give.
And that sounds good. And I'll push this back a little bit. And one thing, and I'm speaking for me, and I don't want to take the stage, Steve, I apologize if I'm talking.
That's all right, go ahead.
And I hope my voice is good enough for y'all without a microphone. I rarely need one. I've been a high school soccer lay coach for 7 years. I've got the coaching voice still. But so from day one with the staff, I made sure this is our steering committee's map. It is not the staff's map. The staff, I believe, is allowed to just do a map, send it to the mayor and commission, and never have a steering committee. But the ACC wants to do it this way. I think it's the way they've been doing it. But it is something that I did say, and I've proven this because this was intended to be fairly completed by the turn of the year into 2025. And the way I want to do it is slow and steady. So at least from my end, we are not rushing, and I am not letting the staff or the county rush us. The map was completed as a draft when the map was completed. And so now it's going through the system. So as far as 2028 goes, I'll be quite honest, I don't care. I mean, in other words, if that's what the citizens want, it's not going to be my decision. It will go to the commissioners who will make a decision like that. I don't make a commission on this for getting it through. I'm not a paid expert. I am a free service. I was asked to do this. I did not ask to be on this commission or committee, and I did not ask to chair it. I'm serving my mayor and commission on this. So 2028 doesn't bother me one bit, but I want to get the map right, and so please do what Mike said. Get involved. I'm not going to take that from you too, but get involved, and don't only go and talk. Get on these committees. Get on these. Ask to be. Let your commissioner know I'm interested in certain committees and be a part of the ones that do this. I think that's a good idea. But at least go speak.
Thank you.
And say that.
Yes.
Just real quick on short-term rentals. I was under the impression the ordinance stopped them. There could be no more new ones. And you're saying they're still being added?
Commission just approved one the other night, and there's some more queued up to go to the planning commission.
They're in zones. It's geographical.
One more question over here.
I applaud you for calling out Stephanie for being responsive, and I would like to call out another commissioner, Patrick Davenport, who has consistently listened and responded both when he was our commissioner in the past and since he has been redistricted away from us. He still listens and responds.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Why is the green belt so protected? That's what has caused all of this stuff inside the perimeter, all this density that we have is because this county could not expand. And when we were told by Cal Duval and Doc Ayers, Eldridge, it was a green belt was something that was living and breathing. It could be expanded, it could be gone into, but that hadn't happened. That's why you've got 6-story buildings going up everywhere in this town, and that's why the density is here like it is. But can you tell us why it's not been added to the future land use plan?
One main word: sewer.
Sewer. That's another issue. Back in the early 2000s, we were putting in a sewer line to Winterville. It was going to come from south near our sewer plant that's on the Oconee, the one further south, to run up Green Creek, I think is the name of the creek. But infinite wisdom changed that to would put a lift station to go to Winterville and not put that sewer line in. And you know what the reason was? Oh, it might encroach development in our green belt. Now we're paying for it, big time. And there's nobody really planning for the future like we need to have happen right now.
Yeah, I'll make a comment on that and then turn the microphone back over. You know, one of the challenges from planning is that Clark County is the smallest geographical county in Georgia by a wide margin. And on a per square mile population density, we're up there. And then when you look inside the loop, we're way up there. So a lot of people equate Athens, Clark County with inside the loop. And so one of the issues that Athens, Clark County has not addressed as part of this planning effort is how much is enough? How much is enough in terms of population to put in Athens, Clark County? And I have a 10-second story on that. One of my daughters is on the planning commission in Roswell. One of the issues they have wrestled with is how much is enough in the city of Roswell. And so they came up with a number, right, wrong, or indifferent. But they came up with a number because they realized without having some kind of number, what they were essentially endorsing is unconstrained development and higher in density forever. And what I suggest is that Athens, Clark County needs to have that conversation about how much is enough in Athens, Clark County.
Well,
Can
just
I
a
ask a
question then,
question?
Michael. How does that get constrained when the university continues to grow and adds more students to the county?
Well, that's something that we have to deal with, and one of the constraints is that Athens, Clark County government has no relationship with
Well,
senior leadership
that's
at
the
the university.
problem.
And until they can do that, you're not gonna be able to have any kind of, ongoing activity. And the other thing I would say is, if you go back and read the files from 1990 about the unification, there were a lot of promises made. There were a lot of assumptions made. And Athens, Clark County government has never followed through in doing the review of the charter that was supposed to be done every 10 years. They only did it one 10-year period. So that's one of the issues, is till you can get that relationship and you go back and start looking at the charter and figuring out some of these issues, we kind of are in a bad spot.